Hello, thanks for coming to watch today. And today I'll be making a centerpiece workbench for my shop, something I really needed. I've been working on this workshop. I moved into a place out in the country and I finally decided it's time to build a more permanent workbench, a centerpiece of the shop. It's only a 20 by 20 shop, so I couldn't put in a giant workbench, but this one is 36 inches by 70 inches. The reason for that size is because that's the biggest single sheet of material I could fit into my car. And at this point, I'm just starting the assembly of the table after cutting and deburring all the steel tubing, squaring it off before welding it, and I plugged my welder into the 120 volt and managed to blow my breaker. So a couple of the things I wanted to incorporate in this table is a sitting area. So I wanted to notch out the bottom tube in the base so I could tuck in a chair and have your legs go in, so it would be nice for TIG welding. And the other one I was really excited about is an extension that slides inside of the steel tubing, and you'll see that at the end of the video. Everything worked out and I'm really happy with it. Right now I'm working on the adjustable feet for the table. These are just 2" by 2" sheet metal squares, and I'm cutting a 3/4 inch hole out of the center for the lock nut to be welded into. So while past me is working on that, I wanted to get your guys' opinion on something. The other day I was looking for somewhere to pick up supper, and I found this chip truck near me about 15 minutes away, and it didn't really have any hours online. And things in the country kind of close early most of the time. So I ended up driving anyway, and everything was fine. They were open, and I picked up my food, and everything was fine. But they had a sign there with their hours, and on the sign it said closed during rain. And I wanted to know, maybe I'm crazy, but that didn't make any sense to me. Are they closed if there's rain in the forecast? Or do they close as soon as it starts raining and they just close up shop and leave? Maybe when it's raining, they're closed, and as soon as the sun comes out, they open back up again. Maybe I'm wrong. And if you don't really care about that, tell me in the comments about a chip truck that's near you. There's some cool ones near me, but there's always some unique ones out there, and I'll like to read about them. So I've got the main body of the table finished, and I'm doing the portion where you get to sit at. And I was trying to use as many scraps as I could so I wouldn't waste this expensive material. And I got these 3 pieces at an angle of 67.5 degrees to span the entire front of the table just barely. And with all of that math added up, everything measured up, I made this weird looking shape, and that's going to slide into one side of the table for me to be able to sit at. And this was the last piece to put into the table. Just clamped it in and welded it. Everything fit together pretty well, and that usually happens when you cut everything prior and deburr everything. And with all the cutoffs, I was able to make this grid of supports for the main part of the table, and I can also use it for clamping closer to the center of the table. It's great. Now with the whole table just tacked together, I'm getting ready to weld the whole thing fully. Every joint is getting fully welded, so I set up a fan to blow out the fumes, and it worked surprisingly well just at the lowest speed and managed to get almost everything out, and I didn't really feel it in the air as I was working. Right now you're probably seeing a couple hours of work in a few seconds. Whenever I do these kinds of long welding sessions, I just like to put on something to listen to in the background and work away, do it all in one shot and not take any pauses. After that, I ground down all the ends. I wanted them to be smooth for the tubes to go in later, and we're off to painting. I always make sure to degrease any metal thing I'm making. You'd be surprised how much grease is on those brand new tubes. And I decided to paint this one white. I wanted more light reflection in the shop to make it as bright as possible. And I'm using a Rust-Oleum enamel paint that's going to be a little bit thicker. It was windy that day, but I managed to get 3 to 4 coats, I think. I actually didn't paint the underside of the table on purpose so I could have somewhere to connect my ground clamp to. If you don't know, a welding ground clamp needs an unobstructed conductive connection to your workpiece from your welder. So connecting the clamp to the bottom of your table allows you to clamp something on top of it, and that current will travel through the clamp, through your table, and back to the welder. Here's some footage of me flipping the table over. I just wanted to show that even with bigger things like this, you can kind of shimmy them along, use some blocks so you don't scratch, and flip it over slowly, safely. Now I'm ready to put on the upper and lower tabletop. I cut it off camera, but it's just 3/4 inch MDF I cut with a circular saw and sanded the edges a little bit. I like to use MDF because it stays flat and sharp. You can resurface it by sanding it. It doesn't burn from welds. It's overall just a nice workshop material, I think. To mount the table, I used some 1/4 stainless bolts. I drilled a hole and tapped it to 1/4, countersunk it, and put in the bolt. I made sure to stay outside of those long full-length tubes on purpose so my extension would work, and I put 4 on the bottom as well. Here's the leveling legs in action. They just turn so you can adjust the 4 corners of your table. I also added this clamp bar to keep my most used clamps nearby. Now it's time for the extension. So I had these 2 extra tubes from some project from before that would fit perfectly inside of my 2" by 2" table tubes without having to remove that weld on the inside. So I wanted to make this extension that goes inside of the table framing. I thought it was really cool. I used a little tube to connect the 2 of them. I'm saying tube a lot and it's confusing me. I also wanted to make this vertically adjustable, so I drilled a 3/8 hole through the top and a 1/4 tapped hole on the side there, and ground some 3/8 solid steel bar to a nice round point. It goes through the angle iron and then gets welded on, and when I tighten that bolt, it binds that 3/8 rod, so it's infinitely adjustable vertically. Hi there, I'm from the future to let you know that I've been using this table for several months and I'm still happy with everything, including this extension. That's 30 inches extra of table space and it can hold my weight, no problem. Anyway, thank you for watching and consider subscribing if you liked it.